user story one, but we are saying that the user story, the customer wants to withdraw cash from HCN so that the person does not have to, wait. But we are saying the account is overdrawn now. In this scenario, the account is overdrawn. So what should happen? So we are now writing like the Gherkin language, saying the acceptance criteria to let the programmer knows how to code it, saying given the account is overdrawn, and the card is valid, and the ATM machine contains cash. When the customer enters the PIN number, you can see now that I've changed it. So that's the action. So when the customer enters PIN number, and the PIN number is correct, you can see now I'm using giving and when and then display the available balance and displays the cash request. So you could write as many scenarios as possible. So that's why you have to be able to think properly, to be able to, what are the scenarios, what are the, circumstances that could occur when somebody wants to. So now we can say the account is in credit, when the account is even overdrawn, when there is no even, maybe the person does not even have maybe overdraft facility, and the person does not have an account, and the person does not have credit in account, what should happen? So you could have another scenario for that. You could not have another scenario to even like saying maybe the card is even invalid. So if the person even have an account but enters the wrong card number, put in a wrong card, maybe instead of using Barclays is okay, let's say the person has a wrong card, let's say using store card instead of putting normal debit or debit card in the ATM, but mistakenly put let's say the store card, one of the store card. So what should happen? So you could have as many scenarios as possible for this. So it that depends. So what you just need to understand is how to write it. So if you have more than two actions, so you can see I said ensure cash is displayed and ensure the card is returned, and also the account is debited. Here I'm just saying make sure the card is displayed, display the available balance, and also so you could have and when and then hand. So that's what you just need. So and also you could write another criteria saying customer able to withdraw cash from ATM only when account is in credit, ATM valid card. So those are the acceptance criteria. But this is actually different, but this is not really detailed enough. So that is why I would advise maybe when you are working on maybe something like a digital, you could, this is better, like if you are writing something for this ATM ATM withdrawing cash from ATM. So you could see that the Gherkin language is better to use for this scenario. But there are some systems or requirements that you write that this will actually work better for you. So these are the two types of acceptance criteria that I do write. So depending on the project that you are working on, then you can now see the one that actually fits best. But for digital, I will advise you use the BDD, which is the Gherkin language, this one. So okay, this is just to show that the scenario is given is like the preconditions. When is the event or the actions that happen, then is the outcomes. So anything like hand is like additional tasks or additional steps that you actually take, or maybe additional outcomes. So that's just the hand, is to combine it. So I think I will just stop on that. Let's see what's everything here. This example here. Okay, so there's another example that I put here saying, so this one is functional head requirement says application must allow user to check balance on their accounts. So the priority is should. So I'm saying user stories as an internet banking customer, I want to see my balance for my current account so that I can know the balance of my account after each transaction is applied. So that's a user story. So, but I could say the balance is displayed correctly, the balance is calculated correctly for each transaction. So depending on, the acceptance criteria that you think is fit, then, or maybe that you agree that with your stakeholder, then you just need to write it there. If it could be 5, it could be 1, it could be 2, it depends. So this is another one, say, application must allow creation of journal. So, which is not So you will see that this one is creation of journal. So even if you don't really have an understanding of how it works, so you will see that this one, like this, the way I've written the acceptance criteria, it's actually fit for this journal. Then I can say, oh, as an accountant, I want to create a general ledger so that I can post financial transaction. Then I can say my acceptance criteria is able to create general ledger. Financial transaction for each year are displayed. The general ledger is organized in, audit statement. So you could see, just for you, once you understand it, then you will be able to determine how you need to write your acceptance criteria with your stakeholders, or if you need to use get language, or you need to use the the normal acceptance criteria like this one. So I think with that we'll just stop on that and move on to the next slide. So that's on acceptance criteria. So now we are looking into wireframe. When it's actually depending on the project that you actually work on. So when you say wireframe, sometimes you write a requirement, and the developer may not really that they will not know, but there are some things that you need to do that will actually use to support your requirements. So when we say wireframe, the wireframe is commonly used to lay out like content or maybe functionality on a page. So we can say it's like a blueprint. So we can, because there's a difference between wireframe, prototype, and also some there are some other things like that. So wireframe is, so when you actually document your wireframe, before you can document your wireframe, you need to have an idea of what the requirement is. Because imagine you just want to document your wireframe. What exactly do you want to document the wireframe for? So because before you can document it, you need to know the requirements. You need to know what you're trying to do. So once you gather the requirements, you've actually documented your BRD, you want the website could have maybe login page, account page, profile, different things on the website. Now, you can say you want to design a website, but how do you want the website to look? And just to let you know that it's not all the projects or all the requirements that you have a wireframe from. For example, like when the creation of journal, so it's just like public application. So that you may not really need a wireframe for that kind of project. So, but something like a website, you need a wireframe for it, because you want to be able to know how it's going to look. And when you actually, you can, for your wireframe, it's more or less like, mocking up how you want the website to look, or how you want the mobile app. So you use the wireframe for like anything like digital, like a form, or maybe websites, or maybe mobile application. So you use your wireframe for something like that. You still have to document your requirements, but your wireframe will be like a supporting document. Imagine you document the requirements now. You've documented it in Microsoft Word or Excel. You've written your user story. But now you've given that to probably maybe the developers to actually design a website. But how would they know how to arrange all those content that you actually say you want to be able to? You need to have a profile, you need to have contact us, you need to have a brief information about overview of the company, you need to have different things, functionalities that you need on the website. But they don't know how to arrange it. So, but the wireframe will actually help. We actually guide them on how to design that website, or maybe that application or the mobile app. So imagine you have imagine your phone, like your mobile phone. So for them to actually, maybe from Samsung or maybe any of these manufacturers to actually design this phone, they actually done a wireframe for it. So there is a wireframe. Anything like that has to do with digital, maybe like, for example, maybe you want to design a form, you want to embed it within your application. They need to know, how do they want to, fine, you may say you want name, address, email address, maybe contact, but they will want to know, how do you want it to appear? Do you want the name at the right-hand corner, or you want the, address at the left-hand corner or at the bottom of the page? So during your wireframe, you actually help the developer or whoever that is working on the website or the application to actually know how you want it to be arranged. It's more or less like laying out, doing the architectural work, laying that plan of what you want to do. So for a wireframe, you can use paper for a wireframe. You can use, some people, they use paper and pen to actually, do the wireframe, but that is just like a starting point. It's not so for you. How you can do your wireframe, you have to do it with your stakeholder. And what I do most times is actually, based on the requirement that I've gathered, and sometimes you have an idea of what they're trying to do. What you can do to draft something, I can't say you should go and meet your stakeholder with a blank page, but at least if you actually approach your stakeholder, say, okay, you've documented the requirements. Now from the requirement, that based on what you've given to me, I've drafted or sketched something, how the website is going to look or how the form is going to look, and this is what I put together. Is it right? So that will actually, aid your discussion with the stakeholder to actually say, actually, what you put here at the left-hand side, can you move it to the right-hand side? The time that you spend would be less, or maybe will be less or reduced, compared to if you actually approach your stakeholder with a blank page or with nothing. Because that means you have to start from the beginning to say, okay, where do you want your the profile of the organization? Where do you want it to appear? Is it left and right? Where do you want the company contact us or contact us? Where do you want it to be? It will take time for you to actually go through all those requirements or how they actually want the website to look or the application. So it will take time, but since you've actually gathered the requirements, you can actually put something together. And if it's wrong, they will tell you, actually, no, let's start from the beginning, let's start from the scratch and put everything together. So your wireframe, so that is your wireframe. And we have, so you can use paper for your wireframe, you can use Sketch, is an application as well, which you use is more or less like, when they say you are sketching something. So, so is an application as well. Or let me say it's a software, so you can use, they call it Sketch, and you can use Pencil, is a software as well, which they use for wireframing as well, so which you can check online. Then there's another one which they call Wireframe CC, is a software as well they use for wireframe. And some you can even use some Microsoft application like PowerPoint, Excel, Visio, and you can use Balsamiq. Just in mind, there are so many applications out there that you can use, to do wireframing of your requirements. There are so many applications out there, but I know a lot of people do use Balsamiq as well. But you can use Visio depending on what is convenient or what is acceptable in your organization or with the project that you are working. So you can, just try to, once you understand what you are doing, then you can use any of those applications to put the wireframe together to do the mock-up. And so and the tutors, like I mentioned, we have low fidelity wireframe and high fidelity. Although you don't really need to know this because it's not like a BA thing, but when they say low fidelity, it means it's just like a design, is just like a placeholder. I think I put something here. Let me just see if I can open this one. So not this one. Let me just open the documents here. So when they say low fidelity, so if you see here, okay, so low fidelity is more or less like low fidelity wireframe is just like a wireframe, is just like a placeholder. It's just like you just put all those containers there. Just when I say placeholder, it's just like saying, oh, this here is going to be company logo, sign in. You can see if I click on company logo, you cannot even see the logo of the company. But I've written something there to say, I'm putting company logo here. I'm putting company file here. You can see here, say products, register, sign in. So there's nothing like graphics or color. You can see here, I said, I'm putting pictures there. Imagine this is just a website that we like, home page of a particular website that we want to design. So I've used Microsoft Word, although you can use Balsamiq or any other application, but just for this training, I've just used it. So imagine this is just a web page. I'm designing a website. Let's say we are working on a website project and we are designing different pages, on the website. But this is the home page wireframe. So because if you are designing a website, you have different, different pages or different, you understand what I mean? So you have different pages like that. So you have your home page, maybe a contact page, or maybe FAQ, or maybe service and products, all those different pages like that. But assume this is our home page or landing page. So now we are saying Oh, actually, so whoever that is the developers, they must know that at the right hand side, or is this left hand side? Sorry, left hand side, we are going to have our company logo. But I did not put the color there. I've not put, probably maybe in my documentation I put the company logo should be done in blue. Maybe I'll put it in there. But here I'm just saying this is just how they should place or arrange all those requirements. It's possible in my requirement document, maybe I've documented that a landing page must have a company logo, a landing page must have a sign-in icon, a landing page must have a register, button or tab, whatever they call it. A landing page must have a company profile. It must also contain the list of the products. It must also have a picture of the, let's say, maybe one of the engineers. Let's just assume that is what the picture is going to be. Let's assume that, and I'm saying the company page must, or the landing page must have contact us page, it must have members page, it must have weather forecast. So all these ones are just like a container. They call it container, in the digital world. So definitely this is a digital project. So they call it container. So all this container, you can see here, I did not put any picture. I have not even specified anything that will be here. So this is a low fidelity wireframe. It's just like a placeholder. So it's not interactive. You cannot click on it. If I click on the company profile, nothing will happen. On the company profile, nothing will happen. If I click on the pictures, it's not displaying any picture. So it's just like, just holding that space, saying this is what you need to put in this section, this is what you need to put here, this is how they need to arrange it. So, but when we are talking about high fidelity wireframe, it is more detailed. You can, in high fidelity, you have maybe something like graphics here, similar graphics picture that you actually see. You see here, even the color, you could see the color. Maybe the color would be maybe blue or background. The company profile, something similar. The product, maybe they will list the things, things here, list the product. The company logo, you can even do, the developer may even do sort of like a, paint, using paint, or maybe snippet to copy something on their website to actually place the right logo here. Then even some of the high fidelity, when you click it, it will mimic exactly how it's going to. It's more or less like a prototype. So when you say prototype, the actual, like let's say something that is almost, the real thing. So the prototype. So prototype is like the high fidelity wireframe. So like all this high fidelity wireframe, it is more detailed than the low profile. It will be more detailed than this. You can interact with it. It will mimic, like if you click on it, it will display, or maybe if you click on sign in, it will actually display you to maybe like a small page that it will have sign in, maybe user account, username and password. So that is high fidelity. So high fidelity wireframe. But as a BA, to be honest, you don't really need to. You just need to know how to do wireframe and know the difference in low fidelity and high fidelity, just in case if maybe you are working with any of the maybe UX or CX. So we've actually, so imagine if you have no wireframe for the website development, it will be a huge risk, for the website. Imagine you don't have any wireframe. How would they be able to arrange it? Even imagine the mobile app, maybe like, for example, maybe this Facebook or application. How do you expect it to work? They don't even know where would they put the signing, where would they put the albums, all those things. So you can actually do a project or write a requirement on digital project without having that wireframe. Is a huge risk for the project, so, or for the organization as well. So definitely you can do that. So for any digital project, definitely it's advisable you have a wireframe. So because it's like having no architectural design when you have to actually want to build a house. Imagine you want to build a house, and you are telling the developer that you want a house with 3 bedrooms and a kitchen and maybe conservatory and probably maybe let's say maybe a nursery, something like that. So imagine you have that, and then a bathroom, kitchen, and maybe 2 bathrooms and 2 receptions and 3 bedrooms. So you're giving your developer that requirement that you just want them to build a house. But will the developer actually or the builder actually know where to put the kitchen, or where to put the reception, or where to put the bedrooms, or where to put the 2 toilets? Because the developer may or the builder may assume you want to put the 2 toilets upstairs, near the bedrooms. Meanwhile, it could be you actually want, 1 toilet downstairs for guests, maybe any guest or visitor that you have, and 1 toilet for the family. So imagine you don't have a plan, you don't have that architectural plan. So how is it possible to build a house to your own taste? No way. So that is why just imagine that whenever you want to do the project. So it's not possible for you to say, oh, I need a website. And without actually know how everything is going to be arranged on the website, it's never done. So just think like that. So you can't have it, you can't do any digital project like that without having a wireframe. So, and also having a wireframe, we actually help the stakeholder to actually visualize and also have an idea of what is going to be built. Because before the final maybe product is being delivered to the customer, at least the customer will have an idea of how the website is going to look or how the mobile application is going to work. They will try to test it and say, actually, we don't want this color, or we want you to put maybe the profile and everything in another page, or maybe a linking page or something. That will actually help them. And because also, for example, if you're working on like a data project, for example, let's say you're working on reporting projects that they have to do, maybe Power BI, business intelligence projects, because this has to do with dashboards and reports. So if you are gathering a requirement, because you actually document this requirement, because it's something that I do as well, you document all this requirements saying, oh, because when you are doing a report, you could have visual, and some stakeholder may say, I don't want any visuals, I just need tables of the information, then that will help them to make decision. So, but if you actually think, okay, you want maybe the red, debit, maybe all the figures in red to be brackets, or maybe you want some columns, depending on the requirement. Or you want any project that is being delayed to be red, or any project that is maybe 50% completed to be green or amber. Imagine you have all these things and you want to create a dashboard, and they said, oh, we want a dashboard for it as well. Because you need to ask the stakeholder what types of dashboards or what type of visual do they want. Is it something like a pie chart, or is it like a bar chart? Is it like line column stack? How do they want all those reports to be in high level view for them to be able to say, okay, in a, let me say, graphical way, so for them to actually visualize and saying, oh, we have about 30 projects that is actually red, we have about 50 that is actually amber, because probably maybe that will actually help them if they have all those information presented in let's say in pie charts. So, but for them to be able to actually do all those reports. And reports, when you are doing reports, they may say they want a list of all the projects, they may want the names of the program manager, but how do they want it to be presented in the report? So you need to put like a wireframe together, how the report is going to look, saying, okay, maybe first column will be list of project name, let's say project name. Second column will be project manager's name. Third column will be maybe project completion percentage. Fourth column, it's still the wireframe, because having all those things, drafted in a paper or maybe on a system or in one of the application, maybe by something saying, this is how the report is going to look. Is that how you want the report? Then probably the secretary may tell you, actually, I want that last column or the fourth column to be moved to the first column. So they may say they want the project manager's name to appear first. They may say they want the project percentage to actually appear first. So wireframe will actually help you, and the stakeholder to actually visualize it and also make decisions saying, this is how I want it to be. So because they will have an idea of how the report or maybe the website is going to look before you actually do it. Because imagine you've written the requirements without wireframe and you've spent maybe about £30,000. after delivering it, then the stakeholder said, actually, this is not the color I wanted. This is not how I want my landing page. These are not, the stakeholder may complain about those reports. Imagine probably maybe £10,000 wasted, and all the time and everything that is being wasted, the resources. So you want to avoid all those things. So that's why it's always advisable to have that wireframe in place. So because when you are using your wireframe as well, so the stakeholder will also give some detailed requirements, because I've also experienced that several times, that when I actually put the wireframe together, saying, okay, you've given me the requirements, so saying these are the requirements that you actually want, and also put this wireframe together, is it exactly what you want? And it will actually, because they're actually saying how it's going to learn, it will prompt them to say, actually, I want this to be this. So they may even give you more detailed requirements or additional requirements that they've not even given, not given you before. So it's possible that using that wireframe, you even use it to gather, detailed requirements, because there are so many times that the stakeholders, they may not even know what they want, but they may just say, I want a website, but they don't know what should be on their website. They don't really have an idea how to arrange it, but you going probably presenting them with a wireframe of a website, maybe something similar that you've seen, maybe like one of these shops website, or they may say, actually, I like that, so can we move this one to this side? Can you put the customer account, or can you put the basket in the left-hand side column? They may not even have a requirement, but seeing the wireframe will actually prompt them to give you the requirements of exactly what they want. So let's say the data requirement. So you can also use wireframe for any user interface or digital project, like I said, and also you can use it, with other techniques as well to gather your requirements. And anytime you actually, anytime you actually document your wireframe, you need to make sure you actually get a sign off on it as well, because you may meet a stakeholder and they tell you, oh, okay, you've agreed on wireframe. So you've said, okay, this is wireframe. They may tell you, actually, I want this to do this. Can you go and rework on this wireframe? Once you rework on it, you need to present it back to them and say, is this exactly now what like signing it off to say that is exactly what they want. Then you can know that, because your requirements are, because wireframe is still part of your requirements. So it's like a blueprint of what you want to develop for them. So they need to sign off that wireframe as well. And so, like I said here, the benefits of using wireframe. So define architecture and content of the website or the requirements. It minimizes rework and revisions as well, because it will save you time, to do so many alterations. Imagine, like I mentioned, you have the website and there was no wireframe. So the stakeholder may tell you, could you change this to blue? Could you move to this one to the left? Imagine, it will save you time if you have the wireframe in place, and it also facilitates the client and stakeholder feedback as well, because by them seeing the wireframe, they will be able to tell you, actually, this is exactly what we want, or we don't want this color. Can you change? We actually need blue. It will help them to actually give you feedback on what you put together, and also give you additional requirements as well. And so you say the wireframe, the stakeholder will have a feel of how it's going to work. So imagine high fidelity wireframe. When they click on it, they will know where the page that is going to link them to, all those things. So wireframe actually help them to have a user feel of the end product as well. And so the wireframe also validates your requirements. So imagine they've given you probably the requirements, you've documented your requirements maybe the first week, putting the wireframe together maybe early the second week, and presenting it to them. So they may say, oh, actually no, or yes. So it actually helps you to validate the requirement that they've given on to you as well. So why should you use a wireframe? It helps you to actually visualize the layout of the website, or maybe application form, or imagine you are designing a form. So if you want to design a form, you need to actually have you need to show me how of the form, like a blueprint of that form that you want to design for me to actually say that, yes, exactly, that's what, or maybe let's say customer feedback form. I may tell you I need a name, telephone number, and some other things there. But the, how you arrange it, probably may even, it could even be the color. It could be anything. It could be the font size. So if you present a wireframe of that form to me, I can comment on it and say, yes, that is what I want. Or I can say, can I have green color, or can I have blue background? Can you make the paper blue? Can you make the font letter maybe 9, or maybe font size 9? Or can you, so then I'll be able to give you the exact requirements. So wireframe also help you to avoid misunderstanding as well. And also, yes, and when you're doing your wireframe, like the low fidelity one, you don't need to actually, the low fidelity, the one I shared with you, you don't actually need to bother yourself about the color, because that is just like a place so that say, this is what you need to put there. You want to put content name, profile, picture, logo, all those things. So it's not the stage where you have to discuss the, the color or anything. So, but it's just for you to be able to say. But they must have, probably they must have given you the requirements in your maybe previously anyway, so you can include it. But it's not something to actually focus on. And also the wireframe actually help you to build the trust of the stakeholder, because the stakeholder will, imagine I've given you the requirements and you've come back to me with a wireframe. Then and if you've done the wireframe in the right way, maybe exactly what I want, or maybe let's say 70% of what I want, definitely I will have a confidence in you and believe, build trust in you, saying actually you are getting my requirements, or you understand what I've requested for, or maybe what I actually need. So because the wireframe will actually help you to build a trust as well, and it saves time and money and avoid rework. But anytime, just make sure you can't do the wireframe on your own. It's not possible for you to document the requirements and just do the wireframe and just give it to the developer. It's not possible. You have to do the wireframe, with your stakeholder. Even if you've done it, you need an approval. You need to walk your stakeholder through the wireframe and say, this is what I put together. Is it exactly how you want it? Is it exactly how you want the report to look? Is it exactly how you want the form to be designed? Is it exactly how you want the website to be built? You still need, you need them to, they're buying on that wireframe to say that, or sign it off and say, this is exactly what they've requested as well. So yeah, and I think that's all for that. So just make sure you validate, you get a sign off on that. Then we move on to the next one. So now we've gathered our requirements. We've actually conducted our interviews. We've done workshops, and we've also documented our requirements, our process mapping. We've done the wireframe. We've written our user stories. We've written our acceptance criteria. And that's all your requirements done. Now, what you need to do is actually send it to your to the stakeholders, to actually saying, this is all the requirements that you've gathered, you've made the processes, and you've done a wireframe. They need to review it and validate. So we call it validation process. So it's for them to review. If they have feedback, so they may be going through, they may read through your business requirement documents, or maybe your process maps, and they may actually identify maybe some gaps in there, saying, actually, this is not what I meant when I told you this, or maybe somebody, there's a requirement, it's probably maybe they've mentioned something to you. It's either maybe you've misunderstood it, or they did not tell you, they did not explain themselves very well to you, and you've actually documented a wrong thing. So it's just like an opportunity for them to, to review and, correct any mistake that have been, that have been made on it, and also to tell you, maybe to give you additional requirements. Maybe they have a new requirement after you met them. They may say, actually, could you please include this requirement? We've just had a meeting yesterday, and we've decided that we need to have this functionality, as part of the project. So it could be an opportunity for them to actually add a new requirement, or maybe to just give you a feedback on what you've written to correct, or maybe to make some comments. And once they do that, So you need to send the document to them. Some people, they don't really like going through the document. You may say, okay, maybe you arrange a meeting, you walk the document, you walk them through the document to actually go through everything that you've written, but that's not the ideal way, because you need to send it to them, let them read it, at least give them enough, maybe like few days to actually read it and feedback to you. So you can say, oh, could you please review and provide your feedback, or maybe or your approval for this requirements document. So once they review it, and if they're giving you any feedback, you need to make, those alteration or amendments on the document, amend it, send it back to them again. So even if it's 3 times, so it could be you may have like maybe 5, you may have like 5 stakeholders, and probably maybe 2 people agreed, we are happy with what you've done, and 3 people actually made some comments. So what you need to do is to actually update that. And then in the document, so that means the version will change. It could be you now say maybe version 0.3 or version 0.2, saying updated with comments following maybe meeting with so person or the stakeholder. You can mention their name or the job title, and so that they'll be able to know the history of that document, saying you've actually sent them maybe version 1 or version 2, and now some people have made feedback. You've actually updated it, now you're sending it back, because they need to know that you've actually updated maybe section 2.3 or maybe section 1 or section 4, because it saves them time actually to go through the document again. Imagine you've sent the document to me, I've read it, maybe my colleague, maybe James actually made some comments, you've updated the comments, and you didn't actually put it in the maybe revision history saying you've updated section, this particular, you didn't specify the section that you actually updated. There's no way I will know. So that means I have to go through all the old documents again. Imagine maybe it's 56 let's say 56 pages. That means I have to go through all the documents again. But if you actually recirculate the document and say updated section 2.2 following comments from James, then what I need to know once I receive the document the second time is for me to actually go to document or section 2.2 and see those changes you've made there. Then I can say I'm happy. So once I sign it off, then I can provide you my sign off. Maybe the James will also provide sign off. And once everybody sign it off and sign off the documents, then that means your requirement has been signed off. You can send it to the supplier or maybe the developer, depending on the project that you are working on. So that means your requirements is done and dusted. So you just need to now wait for your next task, or maybe you need to be liaising with the developers, or maybe the external supplier, the third-party supplier. So, but once you document all your requirements, your process maps, the stakeholders need to sign it up. They need to validate to make sure, because it's an opportunity for them to cross-check everything, to say everything you've documented is actually what they've told you and you did not miss anything, and for them to sign it off. Now we've completed that, and that's sign off. So now we sign up the requirements, they sign up the requirements, and the developer started working on it. So remember, you've documented your user acceptance criteria. So now the developer has mentioned to you that, oh, we are going to have maybe like a release of first, maybe what they've developed, so you can start, probably maybe you can start testing it. So, or maybe they've even completed it. Maybe it could be maybe weeks or a month, depending on the project plan. So assume that the project is now, maybe the developer or the external supplier has given you a date that we are going to have a UAT on the 14th of March. So what you need to do as the business analyst in charge of this project, because the developers or the supplier would have notified you, you need to give your stakeholders, you need to give them enough notice and actually check their calendars to see how you are going to fit in this user acceptance testing phase, because they need to test it. You could test it just before you presenting it to your stakeholders, but your stakeholders need to actually test it before they can say now they've received the product they've actually requested from you, or the project has been delivered successfully. So you need to schedule, as a business analyst, you need to schedule the UAT session. Excuse me. Make sure you give them in, because I will not tolerate or I will not be happy if a BA actually puts a UAT session, in my calendar, just 24 hours notice. That's not proper. Just like when you are trying to schedule your interview or workshop, you need to give them enough notice. Ideally at least 1 week, to be honest. But most times I do 2 weeks, because once I know the date, because you would have known the date of the UAT ahead of time. So then you would have put in their calendar saying, okay, maybe 1 to 2 or 2 to 4, or maybe 12 to 2, we are going to have this UAT. Make sure you schedule it. Maybe the meeting rooms you are going to use, if they have to do it, at their desks, just make sure everything is prepared. And also, it's possible there are some projects that you may have to document, some test cases. I've worked on a project before that I actually documented the test cases and the test scenarios. I wrote it myself. And what I did was actually, because we're working with a supplier in India, so I documented the test cases, and they actually documented their own as well. So what I did, they sent me what they've documented, and I reviewed this and with what I've documented, and there are some gaps. So what I did was that I sent them my own copy to say, could you use this to actually make sure you capture all these test, test scenarios, to make sure they capture all the test cases. So using that, so there are some projects that they will ask you to write the test cases. There are some projects, but not really, a BA team. But if you have an idea of how to do it, it's good for you. And also, it's possible that the suppliers may actually maybe must have written the test cases, and they may send it to you, to review, just like what I did in one of my projects. So I reviewed their test cases to actually see whether they've covered all the scenarios. And if there's any gap, then I will just notify them that, could you please include this? And yeah, so that's the document review. So then on the day, because your test cases, they are going to use all those things as well, to actually test or to make sure that all your acceptance criteria, it covers all the acceptance criteria as well. So once you have on the day of the UAT, you make sure all your stakeholders are there, then maybe the developer, whoever it's going to be, they will run through and carry out all those tests, all those tests to make sure all those scenarios that you actually documented on your acceptance criteria is being covered. And once they're doing it, so it could be your stakeholder at that time, they will be saying maybe the customer can withdraw cash, tick, or maybe the report display debits in red, they will tick it, or the report display figure maybe 2 decimal places has 2 decimal places, they will take it. All those criteria they've listed down that you've actually signed off, they've signed off, then they will use that to actually do the testing. And it's possible that you may have like a general testing, maybe UAT session with all the developers and stakeholders, and then you need to give them what I do. Then you can give them maybe additional days to say, could you carry out the testing on your own and feedback to me within maybe 48 hours or maybe by Wednesday to let me know if you are happy with the development or with what they've delivered. And so because they can actually, the stakeholder can actually test and do all those whatever they want to do, and if they're happy with it, then they can sign off and say, yes, we are happy. It meets all the criteria, all the acceptance criteria that we documented. I'm happy to sign it up. And once they sign it up, that is the end of that project. Not really, let's say technically, yeah, that means that project has been delivered. Then the customers, your stakeholders, they're happy, sign up, and that is UAT. More or less like that is end of that project. But you may have to do some documentation, at the end, maybe with your project manager, but that is that end of that particular task. So you documented the requirements, done the wireframing, and obtained sign-off. The development have done implementation, they've implemented it, and they've done the testing and everything. That project finished or project closed. And also one other thing that I need to talk about is the impact assessment. There are some projects that, not all projects, but there are some projects or some organizations, they will ask you to carry out impact assessment. I've done it before, but not all my roles have actually done impact assessment before, but it's something that I've done before. So the impact assessment is actually to see, like to examine if the project is going to have, or what impact the project is going to have, maybe on the staff, or maybe on the technology or the resources, or, on so many things, maybe the people, the processes, the data. So it's just to assess, everything, like all those key areas, to see whether, there's going to be any impact if they implement that project. What's it going to affect? So then can the probably maybe the decision maker or maybe the project sponsor or whoever is going to be, let's say the project sponsor can now say, actually, because we've carried out impact assessment, we've identified that if we do this project, that means we will not be compliant with the GDPR regulation or data protection, regulation. So that means it's a risk. So we've actually identified that if we implement this project, that means we may have to employ about 5 people more to actually cover this area, maybe. And it could be probably maybe they may say outcome of the impact assessment is that once they implement this project, they may have to change the systems or maybe the application that they use at the moment, or they may have to, get some application. It could be anything. So it could be so they have to make sure they check all the key areas to see whether the project is going to, the impact, is just like assessment, carrying out assessment of what the impact the project is going to have on those people, technology, data, and also their processes as well. And once they have all those results, then they can say, we cannot proceed with this project. Probably maybe looking at all those outcomes, they may say the risk is actually high and there's no way we can mitigate it. Then we may have to, maybe abandon this project. And it could be something that they feel they can actually mitigate those risks. Then they will make a decision to progress. So it's just a way to actually, so they do carry this out before the project to actually help them determine whether they should proceed with the project and if all the necessary things have been, assessed to put in place, and if it's not going to have maybe any negative impact on the organization, then they can decide whether they want to go ahead, progress or not. So, but it's not all the projects that you may have to do that, not all the projects, but there are some projects that they may say you may have to carry out the impact assessment. And also there's another document, Traceability Matrix. So definitely you need to know this. So why do you actually need a traceability matrix? So this actually help you, to actually trace your requirements, with the deliverables as well. Because imagine if you have a requirement, high-level requirements, and you have the low-level requirements, and they say, oh, you want to actually see who actually made that requirement, what actually, maybe what is the output, what have you delivered to actually meet that requirement. So I will show you how to, let me help, sorry, I think, let me open that through this one. So I will just show you the templates and quickly walk through the template we use. So probably maybe that, yeah. So there are so many, there's depending on the organization that you work, there are some organizations they use some software like Sparks, they use it to do the requirement traceabilities, and but most times you use Excel. So it's just for you to say, so this is just a sample of one of the ones that I've just put together. So it could be, maybe it's a regulatory project. So imagine in a regulation, let's say for example GDPR, so you would have probably they will have like chapter, articles, things like all those what they put in the regulation. So for example, let's say it's chapter 1 and it's article, let's say 15. And what is the article title? It could be maybe data portability. So you put it a data portability. What is the description of the requirements? So probably they may say, the probably, or let's say consent. So they may say, actually, what is the description? So you put the description there. So what is the requirement? So the requirement that you've documented to meet that regulation of GDPR is actually saying you must have the organization must seek or consent of the data owner before they can actually process their data. Let's say that's the requirement that you've documented in your BRD, and let's say this is the requirement, let's say F002 or 12. So the features is consent, or maybe consent map or something. Let's just put it that way. So it could be that my user story will be as a let's say as an information governance manager. I need to record, I'm trying to form up something. So let's say I need to obtain consent from data owner so that I can be compliant with the regulation. So what's the requirement depending? So you may have requirements link, you may not have requirements, and I just put this one down. So then the process name, probably it could be you are going to have a process for this, how you can actually obtain maybe consent from data owner. It could be, so you put the process, so let's say you put the business process that you've documented, you put the link there. Probably maybe the approver of that, maybe somebody one of the stakeholders have approved that business process, saying that is how they are going to meet this requirement of consent. So you put the approval. So what did you deliver? It's cool. You could have many deliverables. It could have that you have process maps. It could be that you've documented, you put a form in place, to actually request to be sent to data owner to request the consent. It could be you put a system capability in place to say, oh, any data does not have a consent should be flagged. So you could have so many deliverables here. So then who is the BA? Then the status has it been signed off? So so this is just tracing your requirements. Tracing your requirement, maybe your high level requirements or detailed level requirements, to the deliverables. That is just your requirements. It's just to make sure and to ensure that all the requirements that they put out there, you've actually met all those requirements, because you want to put a check in place that, or like a checklist saying, has everything been met? All the requirements, let's say you have maybe for example, let's say the data protection project or regulatory says there's 36 requirements. So then you may put all the 36 requirements here. Then you want to see, have you met all the 36 requirements? Which one is missing? Which ones have you? Which of the requirements you've not met? Have we met 26? Okay, that means we've done 75% of the project. So we have 26. It's just for you to actually trace all your requirements to your deliverables and to ensure that everything has been met. So the traceability matrix, it varies, but that is just to give you an idea of what the traceability matrix could be. You could have high level, you could have detail level requirements, high level, detail level, maybe your requirements. It could be, any form, but this is just a sample. And here, and so let's move on. And also, I'm sure I'm not going to really go into detail here, but like in your projects, you have different methodologies, for every project. Waterfall, we have Agile. So waterfall is the traditional way of doing projects, whereby you have to do maybe your feasibility first, then maybe somebody has to you have to do all the requirements gathering first, everything about the project. Then they have to do the design, and they have to do the coding. Then probably after the coding, that's when they will do the implementation. After the implementation, then they will have to do the maybe release, deployment or go live. So it could be that you may spend maybe 3 or 6 months before you can actually see your final product. Imagine we actually want to design a website, and so somebody have done maybe like the let's say solution architect. I'm just using that to say, we need to do they need to do some feasibility, to actually recommend what we need to do, what we need to do. Then they've done that. They've come up with said we need to design a website. They've asked the BA go and gather requirement. So the BA has gone around the whole organization, marketing, sales, finance, supervision. They've actually gone through all the different departments, collected all the documents, all the requirements together. The BA has documented it. So that means 2 months passed. Now we are now in February. So now the BA has finished documenting all the requirements. So the BA has given the requirements to maybe external supplier to the developer to actually do. So the developer has looked at all the requirements again, and they've actually seen, let's say, it's going to take them maybe 2 months to actually do the coding, the development. So we are now in end of, let's say, also probably maybe they're going to even do design first to say this is how we are going to design it. So that may take them 3 weeks before they before they approve it back and forth. Then they do the development. So maybe we are now in mid-May. Mid-May now they do developments, and now they say you can do the user acceptance. So it's going to take us another 2 weeks again. Now we are now in June. So imagine you've started a project since January and you could not even see any product or any deliverable from that project, for 6 months. For 6 months, imagine. So that means you could not see, value for your money until the 6th month. So that is the waterfall. So they have to do, you have to ask somebody else to finish one thing before the next person do the other thing, before the developer do their homework, before they now do the final acceptance. That's waterfall. But a lot of projects these days, they don't use waterfall. There are some projects or some organizations that still operate waterfall. But as a BA as well, you need to now understand how you do agile, how the agile methodologies work as well. So the agile is now whereby, imagine we've done, we want to design a website. So we've used 6 months to actually do everything before we could see, how our website is going to look. So now using the agile, so they may say, actually we want to design a website, but we're working on the landing page. So the BA, we go and we document the requirements based on landing page only. So it could be 3 days. You've documented your requirements, or you gather your requirements. It may take you 2 days, or putting back things and the documentation together, maybe 2 weeks max. Let's say 2 weeks. Now, by 3rd week, you're actually giving all those documents, your user stories, acceptance criteria for that landing page. You've actually given it to your developer. So 3rd week, the developer has actually looked into it. They started working on that landing page. While they are working on landing page, you move to another section of the web page. So probably maybe you are looking into customer area. So now you've started you looking into the next area, the next requirement, let's say customer area. You start doing requirements on the customer area. While the developer, they are doing work on the landing page. By the time they do finish working on the landing, maybe it could take them 1 week. You actually need to do the coding and everything. Then they may tell you, oh, it's ready for testing. You need to arrange for the UAT as well. Maybe you just contact the people that are going to do the UAT, maybe 2 days or 3 days, depending on how you're going, plan the UAT. Then it's possible that after 1 week, after 1 month, you may have a product ready. Then your stakeholder will say, actually, they could see a landing page. So that means if they log in their website, if they enter their website on the type in their website or website address on the browser, they will be able to see their website. So that means their website will be live. Their landing page, at least they will see the home page at the end of 1 month. So imagine if you are using waterfall that you will not even see anything until after 6 months or 5 months. So that is the difference between agile. So agile is like you do things, you do the work bit by bit, like chunks by chunks. So you just do it bit. So now, they finished the landing page. So you've gathered the requirements on the customer here, you're giving it to the developer, they are doing the work as well. You pick up the next task again, bit by bit, you are doing it like that, and they will be, so it's just like you will be able to have, the customer will be able to, or the stakeholder will be able to have a product as early as possible. So, and they'll be able to see it. So that's just the difference. And when you are doing, so I would recommend you need to be able to know how it works. Then when you are having your hygiene, you'll be having like daily stand-ups, whereby because the BA actually you participate in that daily stand-up, they may say, okay, what are you doing at the moment? I'm gathering requirements on customer area and I don't have any blocker. So the stand-up, daily stand-up, we call it daily stand-up, usually about 15 minutes. So it's just for the team that you are working, like the project team that you are working together. It's just to give an account of what you've done yesterday and what you are going to do today and any blocker. So it could be, I may say, I'm gathering requirements on, I finished gathering requirements, documenting requirements on landing page, and today I'll be gathering requirements on customer area, and I don't have any blocker. So the developer will say, actually, so we finished working on page, so we are just waiting for the requirements today we are going to work on the requirements that the BA just sent to us on the landing page, and at the moment, maybe the application is slow. We just need, they may say they may have issue. If there's any issue, then definitely there will be somebody to be able to resolve it for them. So, other people is just like round robin. Everyone will give an account of what you've done and what you are doing, maybe what you've done previously, what you are doing the following day, that same day, and if there's any block, and that's it, 15 minutes. So you have daily stand-up as well. So you need to understand all those terminologies like daily stand-up. You have maybe sprint planning. So sprint is like having, so some people, they have 2-week sprints. They may have 4-week sprints. So it's good. It depends as well. So the sprints could be, so sprints is like, you saying this sprint 1, we are working on landing page. So that means there is gathering requirement for maybe 3 days. The developer is doing it. We do the testing, UAT as well. It could be maybe within that 2 weeks. And if it's 4 weeks window as well. So that means at the end of 4 weeks, they will have something to show. They will have a product ready for the customer to say, this is what we've done. So at the end of each sprint, they will have a product like the deliverable that they actually, completed for the stakeholder to actually say, this. And also there's some MVP. When you say MVP is minimum viable product. So you can read up on all this as well. So minimum viable product is sort of like, minimum product that will actually, something maybe like a small, imagine you want to design a website and you've actually, I'm just using website because I know that is common, but you have different projects. But imagine you want to design a full, functional website, but the stakeholder may say, once we have the home page, we just want people to be aware that we exist. So they may say, just do the home page for us. At least customer can easily go there. They can click on it and say, oh, we are selling. This is what we are selling, and they can read about our company. That's just what they want for the first sprint. So that could be MVP, landing page. That could be their MVP. At least it will give them value. It will, if they will have value, they will derive value in that product. So minimum viable product. So you can read on it as well. And so basically, not to waste too much of your time. So basically, that's how you gather your requirement. You document it. You do your process map. So, and Agile, you just need to understand all those methodologies as well. And so you have, all those methodologies, you can use it for different projects. You can use it for data project. You can use it for maybe business intelligence reporting projects. Like what I do, presently what I do, document requirement. It's also on using Agile as well. Document requirement for dashboard, for reports. And once I give the document the requirements, I give it to the developer. They will do the coding. While they are doing the coding, I'm gathering another report requirements as well. While they're doing that, they are telling me that, they finished the coding, you need to organize UAT. So I'm at the same time sending, organizing UAT for the stakeholder. We are doing show and tell. everyday daily stand up as well. It's like, so you just need to, understand how it works as well. But there are some projects that they don't use agile, they don't do daily stand up, but it's good if you're familiar yourself with, hey, just in case if you come across and they say, oh, have you operated in agile capacity before? Then you can say yes, or do you know any daily stand up, so that at least you will understand what they are, you understand what they are asking you, or whatever it is that they're asking of you. And I think, I think for today, so that will be it for today. So, but next week, which is going to be for the final week, is not mandatory, it's not compulsory. So I'll just do a bit of, the Azure DevOps. So, you have so many tools that they use, for this agile methodology that you use for the project team. So the Azure DevOps, you can write your user stories there, put your assessment criteria, you'll be seeing everything like the Kanban board, So, and some organizations, they use Jira, they use Confluence. So, but I will use Azure DevOps just for you to familiarize yourself with it. And then, so next week as well, we'll do, at least I will map a process as well, just to refresh that. Probably maybe using BPMN. Because I know I didn't use BPMN, I used the swim lane last time. So if we have enough time, probably maybe we'll do swim lane diagram and also map process in using BPMN notation as well, cross-functional flows and BPMN. So maybe we'll use the two. And yes, use case, that is really simple. You can Google on that. So I think those are the three things that we'll cover next week. Azure DevOps, BPMN, then process maps. I think that's what we just. But the main thing we've actually finished all the how to gather your requirements and and all those things. And so let me just quickly go through this question. I believe wireframe is to be used when building a product. Yes, wireframe is to use so when you are actually, for example, if you are doing, when you say a product, like a report, if you are building a report, is a product. If you are developing a website, is a product. If you are developing a mobile app, is a product. So wireframe, so it's something that actually involves visuals. So I would recommend that you use wireframe. If you are developing a mobile phone, so because like all these are mobile phone, you have like the screen, let's say the home page where you have your screens, or maybe your, what's it called? Your pin, how you need to access. Then, then you have, what's it called? Then you have your phone icon, you have your WhatsApp, or maybe if you are using Android, you have your gallery, you have your settings. So if I click on the settings, so the settings, I need to know. So the stakeholder needs to know, or you as a developer need to know what needs. So if I click on the setting, I want to see Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, data usage, more network, maybe depending on your phone. And it could be on the phone, at the top, you want to see maybe 4 icon, my device, account, or maybe 3 dots. Whatever that actually has to do with, let me say, visuals. So you need a wireframe for that. So I would just say that. So yeah. So let me go to the next one. Okay, answer time. So do you need to present both low and fidelity wireframe to your stakeholder? So so it depends. So if you think, but for BAs, most time not everybody can use that, can do the high fidelity, because that is more of UX or CX. That is more of UX, to be honest. So, but at least the low fidelity, like all those placeholder, as a BA, you should be able to present that. But I will not say low fidelity, because that low fidelity, because you have to mimic it, the interactive, the color and things like that. So I will not say you should do that, because I myself, I don't know how to do the high fidelity. But you should just, once you have the understanding of what it is, then that is fine. So at least if you are working with the UX, then you'll be able to know what they're saying, if they say high fidelity or low fidelity. So any difference between wireframe or minimal variable product. Oh yes, there's difference. So like what we just explained now, your mock-up, your wireframe. So they are more of like the visuals, what you like a blueprint of what you want to present or the product. So the minimal viable product is what you are delivering. So like let's say what we just explained, like the landing page, it could be you just want to have functionality to be able to print and to be able to to be able to print and to be able to scan. Maybe that's maybe some functionalities. So it could be you want to develop so many, let's say printer, and you could say, okay, actually, I just want to be the minimal viable product for me is to be able to print. So that means MVP is the printing, is to be able to print. So the scanner, scanning, and all those other things is actually, is actually different. You understand? So that is that. Sorry, where's the? So so any different what's it? So the DPA data protection impact assessment or same as impact assessment? No, data protection impact assessment is different. So you could see data protection impact assessment, that is relating to data protection. Impact assessment, it could be on the project or any project. So it could be you want to actually probably maybe capturing, I'm trying to remember one of the, okay, about, let's say we want to develop a new system. You understand? We want to develop, let's say there's a new regulation, or it could be something. So anyway, we want to have some functionalities, and I'm saying they've asked me to actually carry out the impact assessment. So I may actually document that for this functionality that we actually want to have, we need the system to be up and running 24 hours. There must be no downtime. And even if there's a downtime, the disaster recovery should be 4 hours. So, and it could be probably all other systems within the organization is actually their disaster recovery, or maybe their recovery time is actually maybe 18 hours or 24 hours or maybe 6 hours. So that means there's an impact on the disaster recovery system side, like the backup side, saying they have to be up. So that means probably maybe the organization may have to pay additional money. They may have to increase their SLA. You understand? So it's totally different. Impact assessment is different. It's different from data protection impact. So data protection impact assessment is actually saying what are the impact of that, as in the sensitivity, the personal information, to be able to say if you are working on any project, like most organizations, and when they are working on any project, they will say you should carry out the DPIA. Is for them to actually say this probably project that we want to actually implement. Are we capturing any personal data, any sensitive data, any, so they will have to analyze it, that what are the data that will be, that will be involved in this system or in this project. Then they can say, actually, because we are going to be getting our personal data and sensitive data, there's how we are going to prevent that, or maybe we need to seek consent. And they may say, anyway, it's high risk. What are the measures that we need to put in place so that we'll make sure we're compliant with the regulation? So it's totally different. DPI is different from impact assessment. Yeah, and I think that's all for now. So if there's no other question, and I think yeah, that's all for today. And next week, like I said, most of the things that we need to cover, we've covered it. So there's no the next week lesson is not compulsory, it's not mandatory. It's just to go through the Azure DevOps and map some business, some process maps, and yeah, that's all. Thank you so much, and have a good night. Yeah.